pleasant good morning to everyone and welcome to this after Valentine's Day special edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Hope you had an outstanding Valentine's Day and night, if you get my drift. Coming up on today's show, a guest menu looks like this. Coach Van Pettaway joins me, as usual, in hour number one. We will rely on his expertise as far as his thoughts on Southwestern Athletic Conference basketball. It's always good to visit with the former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Hour number two guests. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network will join me with the Swag Basketball Report. And then following Charles Edmond, Brandon B.J. Jones will join me. And he's going to talk about his recruiting classes and how he rated those classes. We'll get into that. There's always something interesting to talk about. Here's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. Southern University baseball. Yes, baseball is back. The Jaguars open with an impressive season opening win over the University of New Orleans Privateers, 9-3. We'll talk about that very shortly. Southern basketball. They fell short on the road last weekend. The women, they got a split. It's what you want on the road. The men, however, went 0 for 2. Not what you want on the road. Didn't get a split, but we'll talk about a little bit about that. Southern men and women basketball, however, back in action today and Monday against the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley State. The SWAC creates a football officials evaluation committee. I'll pull up that for you and give you some comments or a comment from Dr. Charles McClellan on the football officials evaluation committee. I think it's an excellent committee, and you always want to improve in that area. You know, as fans or as alums, the referees are always, or the officials, they always hear it from the fans if it's a bad call. As Mama Jaguar would say, bad call. But, you know, professionalism, even on the college level, as far as officials, always trying to improve. Kudos to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And then finally, sources are telling me that there's another coach on the Southern University football staff that is moving on. Wow. What is going on? You know, if you're losing staff members for better opportunities, that's one thing. But if it's not, that's another situation. But a good source saying that Southern University has lost another assistant coach, and Coach Odoms will be doing some hiring. Odoms and Associates. That's the name of his new business. You've got to really start hiring some staff on the football team. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. Wow. Southern University baseball, 9-3 over the University of New Orleans Privateers. And just a tremendous opening victory for the Jaguars. We talked to Coach Jackson, and it was at the Andre Dawson Classic in New Orleans, 9-3. And pull up the line score for you. In front of 339 fans, the Jaguars, 9 runs on 10 hits, no errors. New Orleans, 3 runs on 6 hits, 2 errors. Cool and clear. The game was played, and I got a chance to watch the 95% of it on the Privateers athletic site. Jaguars 1-0 on the season today. They'll face Alcorn State at 1 p.m., and that's on the Major League Baseball Network. So I look forward to watching that ball game. Snyder gets the win for Southern University. He was the second pitcher to come into the ball game. The loss for the Privateers, the pitcher was Colin Cullivan, who falls to 0-1. I'm just going to be honest with you. I try to be brutally honest. We had Coach Jackson on a couple of weeks ago. One position player returning. A young team, although talented, the freshmen hadn't been tested. Sprinkle in some junior college players. And just the culture that he talked about, and he talked to the local media about, he expects to win. He expects to win past the Southwestern Athletic Conference, albeit this is an early part of the season. But that was a good victory. Non-conference win against a team that's in the Southland who, by the way, the last few years, they basically get an automatic bid, and they've been doing well. They've been getting an at-large bid in the NCAA regionals. Tremendously proud if you're a Southern alum, a supporter. Albeit it's early, a good non-conference win for the Jaguars in the Andre Dawson Classic. Dr. Michael Prince, good morning to you, sir, and you're the baseball guru. If you're a Southern fan, if you're fans of winning teams, and by the way, we have all the scores in the Southwestern Athletic Conference that we're going to pass on to you. You got to be happy. You got to be happy, Dr. Prince.
Oh, absolutely. And good morning to you, man. Happy post-Valentine's Day to you and your listeners and everybody abroad.
Thank you. Nothing like a good foot rub, Dr. Prince. Among other gifts, I look forward to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir. I'll leave it at that.
You don't digress on us now. Don't digress on us.
No. Let me drink some water here.
But if you're Jag Nation, you got to be extremely pleased with the way you come out of the gate. One game does not make a season, but it does give you a pretty good indicator of what you have to work with. And as you stated, they started off a little sluggish, and that could be uptight. You got a lot of new faces in the place, not really sure what to expect. But then when your natural baseball instinct starts to kick in and realize these guys put on their pant leg, one leg at a time, just like you, and you're able to progress through and do what you were born to do. And as a result, they get the 9-3 victory. Coach Jackson, I told you even after the interview, played it down a little bit, and nothing wrong. Had his poker face on, but he has a good nucleus returning. He lost some key players, but he still had a nucleus coming in that pitching staff. And as an indicator of that, only giving up 3 runs on yesterday is a strong sign that he's got some arms in his bullpen. Yeah,
and he said the offense would, and you remember in the interview a couple of weeks ago, the offense would eventually get there. They're going to have to rely on their defense, right, and their pitching. And the starter, he seemed, he was a junior college transfer. You could tell they were anxious. About 5 batters were hit overall. The starting pitcher hit about 3. A little high on some of his pitches. Didn't have his best stuff, as they would say. But Snyder comes in and gets the job done. Now, offensively, the Jaguars, from what I could see, they took the first pitch, and the starting pitcher for New Orleans, he was throwing strikes. He was putting it across the plate, and it just seems that Southern was just anxious. But what you noticed when they were down 3-1, then they started stringing together just singles, and they jumped on the first pitch. The commentator was saying how now doing that, put the ball into play, no home runs, and then the win at Privateers Park was just just brutal.
Right. Well, it's
Anything
a
that got
constant
up in the
swirl.
air,
Yeah,
it
it's
was
a constant
pushed in.
swirl. Yeah, it's a constant swirl at that stadium.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are not familiar. The Williams Barlow Stadium, which is, about maybe 150 yards across from the other stadium, it blows out while that other stadium, it blows in a circular motion. And it's real crazy. And one thing that you have to remember, Carlos, especially with baseball, the first 2 to 3 weeks, the bats are going to be behind defense. That's why you got to flash that leather, and those that understand that just play good defense. And jumping on that first pitch, you got philosophies from different hitting coaches, especially early in the season. You want to jump on the first pitch because early in the season, what is that pitcher trying to do? Establish strikes. If he could get ahead of the strike zone or the pitch count, then he can pretty much dictate how the bat will come out. And when the JUCO guys are coming in, they're tensed up. You're on a defending championship team. You want to prove that you belong with these guys. You're just as good as these guys that won it last year. Even though you're teammates, you still have a slight degree of separation because you got to prove yourself now at game time. And the adrenaline gets to flowing, and you might try to throw a little bit harder. You might throw 88 miles an hour. You're trying to get it to 90, 91. And that little bit doesn't sound like much, trying to get that extra ump. It causes control issues early in the game. You take deep breaths and you woo-saw and you say, you know what? I was born. When I was catching in my day, I go talk to my pitcher and say, look, man, you were born for this. You've been doing this since you were 6 or 7 years old. Take a deep breath. Let's play catch. Let's have some fun. You guys get relaxed and they realize, you know what, man? He's just as human as I am. Let me go to work. And then the rest, the natural progression of the time that you put in, the hard work, and the fact that you are a D1 player, just like this guy you're facing is a D1 player. Let's get it on.
And Dr. Prince, and I know some of the other teams in the conference, Alcorn, coach said this, and I'm sure Southern had the same problem with, before the season. They didn't have many good days because of the recent weather. And so they had to work where they could and get in. And what was impressive with Southern, 6 runs in the 7th inning, 1 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th. So as the game went on, but the big inning was the 7th inning where they put 6 runs on the board. So a good non-conference win. And plus the Southland, let's give kudos to them. The last few years, they've automatic bid, of course, but they've been able to get at-large bids in there. So I think it's a goal for every team in the conference to get these type of wins, non-conference.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Well, you know that I've been a big advocate, not that I dislike football, but I know that you can create and close the gap so fast on a baseball platform if you understand the mechanism of how this thing could work. And it's not necessarily about having the biggest and the best players, but knowing the type of players that will fit what you need. And there's enough in that Louisiana belt, that Texas belt for sure, of some quality ball players without you having to go too far out of your zone, if you would, to build some compatible teams.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think most people are in agreement. The discussions over the years, baseball is the sport that out of the football, basketball, and baseball has a much better chance of winning past the conference.
Yeah, when you look at it, and the Power 5 programs have been screaming and kicking and pouting to the degree of wanting 22 scholarships. Why do they want 22 scholarships? Because that creates that greater gap. You already have the money, you have the funding, resources, and all this. Then what keeps this thing compatible are the 11.7 scholarships across the board if you're a D1 program. Now, every D1 program is not up to that 11.7. That's on that particular institution. But it's not because it's set up like it is in football, 85 to 63, and then when you go down to D2s, it goes to 36. It's 11.7 across the board. So now you might not be able to get the guys that's throwing 90 plus consistently, but I can find some guys that know how to pitch, not throw, but pitch. Might be between 78 and 85 is where they're topping out, but they know how to pitch. And when I say knowing how to pitch, a good pitcher doesn't throw strikes until they absolutely have to. The art of pitching is throwing the batter's timing off. And if your fastball is only going to max out at 80 plus miles an hour, then guess what's going to be your best ally? A good changeup. Because now what your changeup does, it throws that timing off and it makes your fastball look even faster because the arm motion for a changeup and a fastball are the same way. And if you got a guy sitting on a fastball and it's a changeup coming 10 miles less than that fastball, they'd be like, well, they tear that up. No, because his timing's off. He's trying to jump on that fastball. And then when you throw the fastball, he's looking changeup. Guess what? He gets on him a little bit quicker. So it's a lot of ins and outs that you can balance that field with, man, when it comes to baseball. I get excited about baseball, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, I can tell you're the baseball guy. And speaking of timing, Division1Baseball.com. That's where I'm at now. Thanks for that tip last year.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Because it really, the information comes out fast and pretty accurate. And so I've got it pulled up. So what I do, I go on the site, then I scroll to scores, and then the drop-down box, put it on Southwestern Athletic Conference, and voila, there you go.
Yes, sir.
I pulled up from yesterday. With that being said, here's some of the scores from yesterday. Prairie View A&M and Alabama State. You know, in the Andre Dawson Classic, of course, and New Orleans played at two sites throughout the city. And Alabama State, last time we saw Alabama State, they were on the lopsided loss of 15-0 to Southern in the championship. So motivation is there. They defeated in 7 innings, Prairie View A&M 12-0. Then Alcorn State with an 11-5 victory over Prairie View in Andre Dawson Classic in New Orleans. It was Southern Illinois. I'm sure this game was at Jackson. Get out of that cold weather. Jackson State picked to challenge Alabama State. They dropped a 2-0 decision to Jackson State. Of course, it was Southern over New Orleans University 9-3. Bethune-Cookman over Alabama A&M 8-0 in a nice MEX-WAC matchup. And in 7 innings, wow, Grambling State over Arkansas Pine Bluff 10-0. I got to call my friend Coach James. Oh my goodness, a goose egg. But they're going to get better. A new facility, updated facility, new in Pine Bluff. But they're in New Orleans playing 10-0, a loss to Pine Bluff. New Mexico State over Texas Southern 11-2, and then finally McNeese over Mississippi Valley State 9-0. Any of those stand out to you, Dr. Prince?
Yes.
What's the hesitation there? All right, just try to relax.
I'm very relaxed. I'm very relaxed. And I do know a couple of games does not make a season. And you can read this so many different ways. And I'm going to try to stay optimistic. Okay, and the key word was try.
Disappointment in the
the disappointment is not the losing, because baseball season is a long, arduous season, and you're going to have some losses. You're going to have some days where you just flat out flat. And I want to say that may have been the case, but it's hard to come out flat on opening day. Opening day is you're fired up. You've been hemmed up in fall ball. It's time to release the hounds, and you go out and the fact that you get shut out, okay, that happens. Like we stated just moments ago, the offense has to catch up to the defense. But to get shut out by double digits and then run ruled, it draws a little bit of concern. And then when you come back and you play Alcorn, be it was a doubleheader, which is not new to baseball, you put up 5 runs, but then you give up 11 runs. But then when you go to the preseason projections, should you expect any more? If according to the projections, which are by the SIDs and the coaches who select how these teams are projected to finish, Prairie View was dubbed the second worst team in the conference ahead of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. So if you look at the way they're projecting this thing, you shouldn't be disappointed that PV is 0-2 out of the gate. And if this thing pans out the way they've projected it, the Panthers should come out worst case scenario 1-3 over the weekend, and a happy medium 2-2. And why I say that? Because out of Alabama State had 77 votes to be number 1, and it was Southern with 75. Prairie View had 28 votes, and Pine Bluff had 22. That's a big difference from top to bottom. So you see how Pine Bluff gets shut out 10-0. Prairie View gets shut out 12-0, 11-5. They meet this weekend in New Orleans. Should be an epic battle between those two based on what they've shown so far and compared to where they should be picked. And it's a pick 'em as far as University of New Orleans are concerned. So am I overly disappointed? I'm going to say no. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at a 5.
Well, that's the experience of you. You didn't put a spin on it.
A spin?
Is what it is.
A spin?
No, yeah. No, you didn't put a spin on it. So, some in that position would put a spin on it. Try to look for the sun above the clouds. Well, I think your analysis, I thought, was pointed.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. I tried. I had a show this week called Baseball Eve, and you just state the facts. Our position, you state the facts and you put in an accent of opinion, you got a show, right? And the facts are this. Coming into the year number 5 under the current leadership, out of 206 games, we had 62 victories, which comes out to 30%. Okay, now, against your rival, you're 2-19, which is right at 10%. And the only question that I ask, if this was football or basketball, would that be acceptable?
Yeah, you can ask me about
no, and here's where people misinterpret. Man, you're asking for the coach to be fired. I never said fire the coach. Never have I said fire the coach. But am I wrong for having expectations of a program that I'm near and dear connected to?
No.
Okay.
I can understand that because, just change the sport, and there are some people that are passionate about, losing to a rival. And a rival really means that you go back and forth. You win some, you lose some. But it's just that heated, competition-wise.
Uh-huh.
But if it's one-sided or unbalanced, you have a right to not be happy.
Well, right, and
and who is it for someone to tell you how you should feel?
Well, the I guess the kickback that I get, they say, well, you shouldn't be talking about that. What am I going to talk about? If it's baseball season, and regardless of what institution it is, but it happens to be the one that you cheer for and root for, if they're not doing well, what do you do? Not cover baseball? If it's football season and you're 0-11, what do you do? Not cover football? You have to go on. The show must go on. State the facts. If you don't want me to report, negativity, do better.
Well, they'll have an opportunity.
Yes.
To get back. One thing about baseball,
you got to forget short memory.
Yeah, and then you get back on the athletic playing field quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to wait and stew about it for a whole week.
Right.
Like other sports. or at least football. So we'll come back to baseball, and I'll give you the schedule for today. But if you're looking for something to do after that post, have mercy Valentine's night and day and night. Put on some baseball on the Major League Baseball Network, Southern and Alcorn State. Now, you know I'm going to be fired up for that one. Why? Because it's
you want some of that smoke?
It's not football. Yeah, you know what? I would take into account what has happened. And I want a victory, and I want one in the worst way. So, with that being said, we'll give you the baseball schedule for today, which is February the 15th, coming up. Southern basketball falls short on the road. And, you know, last week I talked about the men on a, 6-game winning streak, 5-game winning streak?
You jinxed them.
Women?
You jinxed them.
Yeah. The women playing pretty well. The women go on the road, as the men did. In the first game of the 2-game road trip, Jaguars defeated Grambling State, their arch rival in basketball, football, all sports, 70-51. Shot 42% from the field, 29 of 68. Raven White, who I talked about last week, freshman post player, 12 points and 7 boards. Then they make the trip east, I-20, to Jackson State, who, by the way, Jackson State has not lost a game in conference, and the Jaguars were down by 16 points, and then they come back and take the lead late in the ball game, but they lost 60-57. You're proud of your Southern alum, Southern fan, that you were able to bounce back against just a powerhouse team in Jackson, the women. And after the game, I said to myself, I have a feeling the women Jaguars, are going to see them again in the tournament. But you remember, let's back up. They lost by 21 at home the first time. And then you're down by double digits, and then you come back and you're able to take the lead late in the ball game, and then just it gets away from you right at the end. So the women basketball team of Southern University, they got the split on the road, but boy, they were that close. They were that close to winning on the road. But now, oh boy, on the men's side, coming in with a nice winning streak, which started against Jackson State. A little bit of background on that game. The last time they played Grambling State, they were up by 11 at halftime, right? Second half, gets away from them, they lose. And that was at home. Then they go on the road. Up again. Whoa, what's going on here? They're up by 9 at half. Repeat, second half. GSU comes back. Jaguars lose 62-66. Then they go on the road, I-20 East, on a Monday night, and Coach Pettaway has talked about this, Charles Edmond. Monday Night Madness on ESPNU. How many of you got a chance to watch the ball game? They lost by 16 to Jackson State. Now, they defeated Jackson State by 6 the last time they played. But the Jaguars, 19 of 56 from the field, 33%. They were 10 of 14 from the free throw line, 71%. So how quickly things can turn. Yeah, I did have a slight little fun with some Grambling State alum, coaches. And no, they didn't hear from me this past weekend. Yeah, because one of the things when you're playing a rival, and I've seen Southern teams go in with a better record, women with outstanding record, and go in there, and it's just tough. About making that trip to North Louisiana and coming in and see again a rivalry. That's what I meant to say earlier. You win some, you lose some. It's not one-sided. So we're going to take a look at the SWAC standings coming up. But boy, you remember we talked last week about you could go on a 2-game losing streak and find yourself dropping down three positions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. And that exactly happened to you guys.
Oh, thanks a lot, Dr. Prince.
Well, I mean,
for that reminder.
Hey, man, look, I can't be the only one suffering through this segment.
Suffer along there, buddy.
Oh, man.
But I'm gonna tell you, the second half of the conference season, the Jaguars, they still got to go to Alabama. That's tough. And by the way, Alabama State, one of the hottest teams. Who's hot and who's not? That's coming up. Grambling men. What a season. This is what I'm talking about. Adversity. Grambling State men started off 3-0. Then went on a losing streak.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're back on the winning streak. You got to overcome adversity. You're going to have it in the season. How do you respond to that?
And with you saying that, that's why in the back of my mind, far back of my mind, I have a slight concern about JSU's women's program. A slight.
What is that? You would like to share that?
Well, they're flying high above the radar more than what was expected, obviously, coming into this season. And
Big second.
Right. And but no one picked them to go undefeated at this point. And if anyone says that, they're lying. They're lying. So, but the point is, let's say they continue on this undefeated run and they make it to the tournament. And it goes back to what we had talked about time after time again. What really justification is it for you to win the regular season conference if you fail in the tournament?
Well, I know we've talked about this before. You don't want to say maybe, and one of my colleagues, he's a Jackson State graduate, stays close to you in the Houston area. He basically told me he wouldn't mind seeing a loss.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You want, at least one, because what happens, you really find out what type of ball player you have and staff that you have, as you mentioned earlier, how they adjust to adversity. How do you bounce back after you get hit in the mouth? It's easy to show up to practice when you're undefeated. It's easy to show up to practice when you're the big dog on the block. How do you maintain that tenacity and that fire when you've been hit in the mouth a few times and you've given it your best, but you keep coming up short? That's when you really find out what type of player you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess if I were looking on the other side, or if I was, if I was a JSU supporter, you're basically saying, well, hey, we just got to take it one game at a time. So what? We've done what we're supposed to do, and we're playing well. And they got a big matchup today, correct?
Yes, they're playing Texas.
It's a team that they had to go into overtime and I don't like to make big, bold predictions. I don't want to be like Charles Edmond, kind of drop a few bombs there and then not even close. But if they get by TSU today, then they got Prairie View Monday Madness. They get by this weekend without a loss.
It's smooth sailing.
We're talking about the possibility of an undefeated regular season JSU women's basketball team, and I think the pressure would just be immense then.
And on the opposite end of that spectrum, if they happen to go 0-2 this weekend, it's not the end of the world neither. And it probably would be the best thing to get them focused to finish strong.
Well, I want to hear from some JSU alums if you're listening. Dr. Prince says 0-2 wouldn't be bad this weekend. 1-1?
1-1, you always take 1-1. As you say, you want to try to split on the road. Right, you want to split on the road. But what I'm saying, if they happen to fall short this weekend, it wouldn't be the end of their season. You understand?
Oh, no.
And I think that would be the shot in the arm that they would need to get focused for the tournament play, where they don't come in lax. You understand what I'm saying? Because they say it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And let's be honest, Texas Southern is going to be one of those teams that they're going to have to get over that hurdle. And if you're going into the tournament, you didn't already beat them twice, it's going to be real hard to beat them a 3rd time. So if you get that seesaw balance, just like I'm feeling good with the men's side of things with Prairie View and Texas Southern, they split, so they face each other again. Guess what? It's going to be winner takes all, and there's no edge, if you would, on one side or the other, because the edge or the attempt of complacency. So, and I know that comes to coaching and mental toughness, but we're still talking about young millennial adults.
Wow. Throw the big M word in there. Interesting. And speaking of that, it's a perfect opportunity now to take a timeout. 10:36, and we will pass on the basketball conversation to former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M, Coach Van Pettaway. Let's see what his mindset. He's been in the wars. He's coached basketball in this league. At this point, we will ask him about JSU women at this point. Should it be time for a loss? I think it could happen today at Texas Southern. They're in that Texas two-step. My goodness, if they get through the Texas two-step Saturday and Monday, watch out. Just go ahead and crown them. They are who we thought they were, the champions, regular season. But then it's a tournament. Should the JSU women's basketball team have a loss or two? That's what we're going to pass on to Coach Pettaway, the coach's perspective. Somehow I think it may not be the answer you think. Coach Pettaway. Also on the men's side, wow. Grambling State men, they're hot. JSU men, they're hot. Alabama State, shred the thought of going into Alabama. If you're Southern men's basketball team, you got to split on the road, then you go to Alcorn State. So back to back to back. 3 road trips coming up in a row after this weekend's game. If you're Southern's men's basketball team and women, you got to go 2-0 at home. You got to go 2-0. Up next, Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And Finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you one chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Are you one of the many Americans that deal with the effects of diabetes? Diva Skin Conditioner could be the remedy that you need. Diva Skin Conditioner is a formulation that was designed with you in mind. Diva Skin Conditioner comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in their product. For more information, visit divafeet.com. That's D-I-V-A-H, feet.com. Or you can speak with a representative by dialing 903-270-0026.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Our weekly visit with Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Well, good morning to everyone, and happy belated Valentine's Day.
Oh, Coach, nothing like a nice dinner at home.
There you go.
Oh,
with the one you love. There you go.
There you go. Watch out now. I gotta get another sip of water again. Well, speaking of the one you love, a lot of love for Jackson State women. 11-0 in conference, 12-game winning streak. Coach Pettaway, should we just gift wrap the title, or at least the regular season, to Jackson State? And can you ever remember the possibility of a women's basketball team going undefeated in conference? Has it happened before?
Well, I thought Texas Southern did it during Coop's first campaign. I think now I can't. It's hard to remember. It's been so long ago. If it happened, is not jogging my memory right now. But I think Jackson State, they're showing that they are the class of the league when it comes to women's basketball. And then, you all on this mindset that they probably need to take a loss before that tournament. No, heck no. No, they don't. They need to keep doggone playing. They need to keep playing because, see, this is down the stretch. And this is when you want to play your best basketball going into that tournament because you got two back-to-back games in 2 days to win the tournament. So they want to continue playing their best. Now, this is what you want to talk about adversity. Look at their schedule. Now, have they struggled against teams? Yes. So that means that in some games they've faced some adversity, they have righted themselves, and they won the games. So all you're looking for is an opportunity for your team for themselves to be able to overcome adversity. And if they've already seen that in some of these SWAC games, then they got it. Now, as far as the losses, they had a loss 13 games ago. So they don't need another loss. You don't need the losses. You don't have an undefeated season. You're just trying to go undefeated in your conference.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have bounced back from losses during your preseason. You don't necessarily have to have one going down the conference schedule as long as you've got some adversity. Now, I'll say this. Now, if they were blowing everybody out, I would have some concern because if they get in a close game, they got to know how to win that game because they have not been there. But I'm looking at their schedule. I think they just won by 3 last weekend.
Yeah,
and I think when they played Texas Southern, that was a 3-point win for them. So they've been in some close games. They've been in some games where they weren't playing their best, and they still won the games. And they've been in some games where I know they came from behind and still blew the team out. So the adversity is there. That's all you need. What you want now is a little more luck, and luck comes in staying healthy. You want to stay healthy and keep your squad together. So that's just like Texas Southern coming down the stretch. Okay, they won, but they didn't keep their squad together because of the suspensions. So they get people suspended, then they go to Prairie View. They play their rival, and they can't win the game because they're shorthanded. So the adversity has been there for Jackson State. So for me as a coach, man, I want to keep rolling. I need this momentum, baby, going in that tournament. Because I've proven I'm the best team during the regular season. Now I want to show you all. I want all the marbles, not just some of them. I want them all because I'm going to win this tournament.
And, Coach Pettaway, I said before you came on there, I said it may not be the answer what everyone is expecting because I guess he told you, Dr. Prince, about having a couple of losses.
That's just my opinion now.
Hey, I can take it. I can take it, man.
No, that's just my opinion. Everybody got that opinion.
No. That's just Carlos being ugly, Coach. And see, usually when you own, he's nice to me, but you see how he treats me when you're not around, Coach.
No. I just brought it up as far as having losses, and I did say we'll ask Coach Pettaway, who's coaching this league, and he may not give us the answer that maybe some are thinking that he's going to give, and true to form, you basically said, look, keep winning, and Jackson State on 12-game winning streak, the 11-0 conference, Texas Southern 8-2, Southern University 8-3. And by the way, Coach, you're absolutely right. Last Monday, Southern's down by 16 points. They lost to Jackson State at home by 21 points, which is just unexpected. And then they come back to take the lead late in the ball game, and actually they hit some free throws, different outcome. So they've had some close games. They had a tough one with Prairie View the last time they faced them at home.
Right. So see that's what I'm saying. As long as you got when your team faces adversity and they see themselves coming out, it helps them in the long run. Mm-hmm. Because if they see it again, they can go, okay, hey, we've been here before. We know what we need to do to get out of this. Right. And that's why you play the game. That's why these long conference seasons, you're gonna have these highs and lows. Mm-hmm. You just want to have more highs than lows. And to follow up on that, Coach, I said in hour number one, how a team responds to adversity, because everyone's going to have it. And you also look at the standings. Alabama A&M 7-4. They're on a 3-game winning streak. So you're in the second half of the conference schedule. Now is the time you really want to hone in on being consistent. That's the word I was looking for, Coach. Basically, Jackson State has been consistent. Right. Texas Southern has been consistent. Southern, to a certain extent, their 3 losses have been 2 to Jackson State and to the 2 teams that are in front of them, Texas Southern. Right. So, could there be a third matchup between Southern and Jackson State, Texas Southern and Jackson State? And by the way, tonight, Coach, Jackson State at the Texas two-step, starting the day with Texas Southern. What do you think about that ball game today? I think it's going to be a great ball game because I know Coach Cooper wants revenge. She's coming off a loss last week to her rival, so she's going to be ready. I think she'll have her troops ready for for Jackson State. There was a very close game down at Jackson early on in the season. So Coach Cooper's looking at the tournament, that stretch run and the tournament, and she knows that she got to get into Jackson State's head, and the best way to get in their head is to beat them. So I think she's going to have them ready. But now, if I'm not mistaken, she's still going to have some people out for this game. Okay, So we got to factor that in. Are they people that she really needs? I know she lost, two of her top 3 scorers in that game against Prairie View. Are they still suspended for this game, or is it the other people? Because it was a total of 5 now that were supposed to have penalties. Mm-hmm. So going into this game, even though it's a home game may help her. It might help her. But this is a very big game, and this will certainly have a lot to do with how this conference race is going to end up. I don't think anybody's going to catch Jackson State. I'm just trying to figure out if anybody's going to be able to put a loss on them. And then you got to remember now, Jackson State still has to come to Alabama. Both Alabama schools try to right now. They're playing a little bit better. So it's going to be a different story than what it was back in January at the beginning of the conference season.
Yeah, boy, as a Southern alum, I almost wish I can skip going to Alabama. But you can't do that because as we switch now to the men's side, that's going to be tough. But can't get ahead of yourself. You got to take care of business today and Monday against University of Arkansas Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley.
Right.
As we switch to the men's side, Coach, Alabama State, Grambling State, and Jackson State.
All winning.
Yep. Grambling State, 4-game winning streak. Jackson State, 5-game winning streak. Alabama State on a 4-game winning streak. You remember how we talked about adversity? Let's just look at Grambling State quickly. Started off 3-0, I believe, in the conference. Went on a losing streak. Now they're back on the winning streak.
Right, playing well. Yeah, and
Southern went up to Grambling last weekend, the men, on a nice winning streak. Once again, Coach, it's over with now, but 2 games against Grambling State Southern men, they led by 11 and 9, respectively, at halftime. In the second half, it gets away from them. Does that drive you nuts, or is it just a learning process?
Well, no, it drives you nuts as a coach now. And then, you don't want to see your team do that. You want to see them be able to maintain leads when they get them. And if you're unfortunate to be behind, you want to see your team be able to crawl out of that and take the lead. But see, now, the other thing you need to look at now, this would be considered a rival game. In rival games, you can throw all them records out the window. You can throw them out the window because anything can happen because of the added incentive by it being a rival game and the intensity of rival games. But see, I was more with Grambling. I didn't look at Grambling as being that bad of a loss because it was a rival game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this Jackson State game that everybody was able to see on ESPN, now the shooting slumps, that's bad. See, when you can't score, when you go scoreless for 3 or 4 minutes at a stretch in a game, it'll cost you. And that's what happened with Southern against Jackson State.
Yeah.
And Jackson State, they're just playing well because their defense has kept them in it all season. They're one of the better defensive teams in the league. And, for the last 2 or 3 years since Brent has been in there, I've told you all, his teams are one of the most physical teams that has been in the SWAC since he's been there. So when you're going to be physical and you're going to play the defense the way he stresses, you're going to always be in games. And so it doesn't surprise me that they're winning. Just like I told you all earlier, not to give up on Southern. I said they'll be back. And they came back. So now it's time for them to regroup and come back again. And they can do it.
Must win, Coach, at home this weekend against Pine Bluff and Valley.
Yeah, they got to have these 2 now. See, they got if you take these 2, then when you make the Alabama swing, if you split, you'll still be in a position to get one of them top 4 spots.
Yeah, we're visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Prairie View A&M, 2-game winning streak. They've been awfully just consistent as well. Prairie View A&M 8-2 in the conference. Texas Southern, a game back 7-3. Grambling State and Jackson State 7-4. Alcorn State 6-5. Southern 6-5. Question about Alcorn State, Coach. You know, on social media with the Alcorn State fans, 3-point shooting, never met a 3-point opportunity that they didn't like. But now teams have extended their defense, and Howard, they're getting the ball out of his hands. They have no mid-range game or post play to get the ball inside, so they live and die by the 3-point shot. And, boy, they're on a 3-game losing streak now, and they had an excellent opportunity at Southern to kind of move up. But now if they're not careful, Coach, they could slip back and could be looking at a road game in the tournament if they're not careful.
Right. Well, right now, if it was a start today, they would be on the road. They would have to go to Jackson because they're currently in 5th place. But see, here's the thing about if you live by the jumper, that 3-point shot, you can also die by it. And that's what's happening. Teams have made the adjustment because we're on the second half of the round robin. So teams have made adjustments. That first time around, they weren't expecting all them threes. But now they are, so now they've pushed their defenses further out. They're probably doing some running, jumping, taking it out of their hands, the best shooter's hands, and now that makes you have to go to something else. And then if you haven't worked on it, then it's not there. Or you may not even have the personnel. That might be the reason why they're playing that way. See, we're not in their practice every day, so just because you see a good-looking kid walk on the floor doesn't mean that he's going to be all conference. You know, a lot of teams, that's why they used to talk about, I used to tell them, some of my guys, you got some airport teams. They look great walking through the airport. You see all these great-looking athletes, but now when it comes time to that floor, it's different.
Wow, that's a good. And by the way, a listener says, bring Coach Pettaway to Alcorn. Well, Coach, I think you've retired. You're more of a consultant now.
Alcorn was a great place for me once Coach Whitney left. Now, no, I'm serious. I'll admit this: I never had the pleasure of beating Coach Whitney at Alcorn. Never. Yep, never. Now we had some great games. I've lost by 1, 2, and 5 down there. But that's not the story. The story is when I lost by 1, he shot 38 free throws. I shot 6.
Oh my! What? Wait a minute, Coach.
So see, it was real going down there playing coach. But I loved going in there because I knew his teams were going to be competitive, and I was a great environment, especially if you went in there on a Saturday.
Well, I tell you, I've been in that arena, and it's difficult.
Right.
Even just walking there, going in there, and it's a football game going on. It's stoic.
Yep.
Stoic. Excuse me, man. I can see it being intimidating.
And then you know what? See, when you talk about having fun, their entire coaching staff supported Coach Whitney. See, the visiting team bench was right down there on the end at their front lobby. And this is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
Their baseball coach lit up a doggone pipe right out there in that lobby. And that scent came through there and hit me in the head. I was through. I was through for that game.
Oh, my goodness.
I was through for that game. And to me, that's just gamesmanship. That's just something that just happened during the game. I can't stand cigarette. I mean, no, not cigarette, but cigar and pipes. It just shuts me down. I was through for that game. So now Alcorn wins that game because I'm not in my element. I'm out of it. My whole mindset. I'm about to faint over there on the sideline. Wow. I was out of it. Yep. Those were some great times down there.
Somebody had some inside information, or that just was well known.
No. Yep.
Yep. And speaking of gamemanship, wow, Coach Jackson, Alabama State.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they did something earlier. They just did it at home. The Alabama two-step.
Right. See, then he came up and he beat the top two teams. Now he's gone on the road and he's got that 4-game winning streak. But now, once again, today, you got a rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama A&M's not playing that well right now, but you never know what's going to happen in a rivalry game.
Go Alabama A&M.
Well, they better hope that Alabama State wins, because if A&M wins the game, that means that Alabama State is going to be upset and mad, waiting on the next teams to come in there.
Yeah. This season has been, conference season that is, has been like the last few. It's going to kind of come down to the last two playing dates in the conference. You'll be positioning yourself for seeding in the tournament. And last but not least, Coach Pettaway, and this is kind of, and I got to be very careful about this, but I'll be okay because I'm asking the coach. I'm sitting in my usual spot at the F.T. Clark Activity Center. I remember when they only had 2 officials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basketball. Now you have 3. If I had any hair, I would have pulled it out by now. It always seems to me you got one on the baseline, then you have 2 officials, one on the perimeter, one to the side, or
right.
Why does it seem 90% of the time the foul occurs under the basket, and the baseline official, he always looks and then he points to the perimeter official? I didn't see it. Can you make was it better with 2 officials?
No, I think it's better with 3. They're supposed to collaborate. That was the purpose of adding that 3rd official.
But why does he always defers?
But because your vision can be blocked. If you're on the baseline, you in a corner. And with the bodies in between you and the play, they have to go to their buddies for help. They have to. I'd rather have all 3 officials talking about a play than just one person just constantly making all the calls. Spread that thing around. Yeah, spread that thing around, because you can get one joker that you done made mad because you either said the wrong thing or you looked at him too hard. Man, that will tear you up, man.
Wow.
So when they collaborate, that's the best thing going. And I'm gonna be honest now, we got to get officials some credit. Our officiating in this SWAC has gotten a whole lot better. And I think I told you, it may have been another broadcast I was on, that on Monday nights, we're getting some of the best officials in the country. On Monday nights. Now you're not getting all them guys on Saturdays now. You know why you're not getting them on Saturdays? Because they're in the SEC, they're in the ACC, they in the Big Ten. They're in the Power Fives on Saturday. But on Mondays, we're getting the Power 5 officials. You look at the game against Jackson State. When was the last time you seen that crew in the SWAC game? You don't, unless it was a Monday night. That same crew called in the Big Ten. That same crew calls in the ACC. But on Monday, we can get them because they're not playing.
Interesting.
Yeah. I've known that for quite some time. You see all the heavy hitters, all the guys that are calling the Final Fours, the championship games. We can get them now, but it's only on Mondays. So the officiating has gotten a whole lot better in the SWAC.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, I'll have to look at it from a different perspective now, but I don't know. It just seems like, I'm sitting right there. Maybe I have a better advantage of what I'm looking at.
No, you are a homer. You are called a homer. That's your team.
Coach.
No, that's your team. Well,
get him, Coach. Get him, Coach.
Wait a minute. No, I'm not. No.
Don't apologize, Coach. Get him.
See, I would be the same way sitting there watching the Alabama A&M game. I would want that call because I'm a homer. My heart is there. Even though I'm not there, my heart is there. Your heart is right there at Southern. You're a Jaguar. You bleed Jaguar, so you want the calls. Just like when I used to bring my teams in there. I didn't want you to get them calls. I wanted them calls.
Open confession is good for the soul. Preach,
right.
Coach.
Well, and now that would be nice, Coach, if you did look at Southern getting most of the calls, but it seemed like at home they don't.
Well, you might be right now because I'm not bragging, but I did have a winning record against Southern.
I know. I know.
Hey, look. That's just one of them things to have. But look, I can't laugh because today, in history, this is the worst whipping on the basketball court of my life. And we call it, my coaches and I, the Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yes, indeed.
When I went to Alabama State, we never should have played the game. That's the worst loss of my coaching career. I didn't have 2 kids in practice all week because of the flu. Not 2 at one time. But we played the game anyway. We had no energy, no nothing. By halftime, we shouldn't even come back out of the locker room. I allowed my kids to lay down.
Like
when have you seen that? When have you seen that? I allowed my kids. We didn't have enough IVs.
Goodness.
I let them lay. They laid down on benches and on the floor at halftime.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
Give them the Purple Heart.
Yep. So you know what? I've had some goods and some bads, but that'll always be with me. Every time Valentine's come around, I think about it. Man.
Well, I tell you what, it's been a learning experience, I guess. And God rest his soul. You remember this, Coach Tommy Green?
Oh, yep.
I'm like Coach Green. Coach Green wanted every call. Oh my goodness. and that's how I am, I guess. So sometimes you have to look at the man in the mirror.
Yep.
But you can say that, Coach Pettaway, not Dr. Prince, okay?
Look, Coach, I just want you to know, Coach, on behalf of the Open Mic Broadcast Network, you're welcome here anytime, sir. Anytime. You could call in and interrupt the segments and everything, And look, as a matter of fact, Carlos, I will say, hey, man, do I need to call Coach Pettaway when I feel you getting out of line?
Well, it's always a pleasure. And sometimes you have to get another perspective to help you see it. But because you should have saw me, Coach. I'm talking to my best friend, and I'm sure he's listening. It's like, get rid of the third official. Go back to just having 2 officials. But I understand.
Yep.
I understand.
But we got a great slate of games this week, though.
Oh,
yep,
yeah. I almost wish I could be in Houston for that basketball game.
Yep.
Both on the women and the men's side.
Correct.
Some streaks could be over.
That's true. On both sides, that's true.
Yeah.
Very big weekend.
Yeah, and this race is going to come down to the end and seeding. As I stated when basketball season started, my goal for Southern was to be in one of those top 4 spots to get a home game in the SWAC tournament. So that goal is still reachable, but they've got they've got to continue to improve, and they're getting ready to face that 3-game road trip in the Alabamas and then to Alcorn. So they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to earn it. Right.
That's why this is a very important weekend for Southern. They've got to maintain home court. They've got to serve on home court this weekend, tonight and Monday. They cannot have any upsets with Pine Bluff and Valley coming in. They got to have them.
Yeah, and Pine Bluff 2-9, 3-20 overall on an 8-game losing streak. But hey, I would look at Pine Bluff as them being number 1 in the conference. Yeah, and that's the way you have to look at. beat a gnat with a maul hammer.
There you go.
Yep. On that note, Coach, we appreciate the perspective as usual, and we'll talk with you next Saturday. And enjoy the rest of your weekend, sir.
Okay, thank you, guys, and say to you all, let's everybody be safe, man, and have a blessed week.
Oh, yes, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Coach Van Pettaway, men's basketball coach, former men's basketball coach at Alabama A&M. Quick timeout, transition. Charles Edmond is up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Have sports, we'll travel. The Open Mic Broadcast Network serving student athletes from Little League, high school, and collegiate coverage right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. From coast to coast, from dusk till dawn. You can catch all student athletic action right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the station designed with you in mind. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the voice of student athletics.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this post-Valentine's Day Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Guest number 2, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing fine. Everybody is giving me feedback about Coach Pettaway, and sometimes it's good to get dressed down. I was called a homer. and Charles, what it was, I told him I wasn't too fond of the 3 officials in basketball, particularly the baseline under the basket officials, who always defers to the perimeter officials. And Coach Pettaway told me a thing or two about that. So sometimes you got to get dressed down. I appreciate it.
Well, sometimes when the baseline official doesn't have the best angle, the wing official has the better angle. He will defer to one of the wing officials. And sometimes, when a ball goes out of bounds off of a player, if baseline official maybe didn't see it, went off their hip or their side, and I think that's good officiating. When one steps in and overrules the other, baseline, wing, or whatever the case, I think it's good officiating because you want to get it right.
Yeah, pretty much what he said. So I guess I'll have to come within the flock and say that 3 officials is better than 2.
Yes.
But I'll look for another opening. Trust me. I admit defeat this time. But anyway, yeah, it's an exciting time, I guess, in sports in the Southwest Athletic Conference. Baseball has started. We talked about that in hour number 1. Basketball is still the main story. Alcorn State. I asked Coach Pettaway about it. I'm going to ask you. Live by the 3, die by the 3. An opportunity to move up for both Alcorn State and Southern. Alcorn a 3-game losing streak on the men's side, Southern on a 2-game. What will Coach Robinson do to kind of reverse this recent trend?
He's really, in talking with him the last few days, he's really more disappointed in the team's defense. I mean, we give up 93 to Southern. We give up 80 to Grambling, and against Jackson State, we're probably 15 points above what we normally would give up. We're the number one defensive team in the conference up until those 3 in a row on the road, and we've been kind of picked apart a bit. He's not disappointed in the 3-point shooting. This is what this team is made of. This is their DNA offensively, and I promise you, the green light, it's not going to change the yellow. It's not going to change the red. That's not going to change. He's just more disappointed in the lack of post defense, straight line drives, guys getting to the cup, too much fouling, too much putting teams on the free throw line. I think he's more concerned about the defensive side. Yes, we have struggled from beyond the arc the last several games. But I think he figures his defense, if it's good enough, he figures his team can start knocking down some more shots, especially some shots from beyond the arc and more mid-range stuff to add to his scoring if your defense is good. But we're not good enough to where if we allow a team to score 80 points that we can match that if the threes are falling. It's just, the math just doesn't work. So it starts with the defensive end, and we've got to do better defensively if we're going to have a shot here to host a first-round game. Because that's what it's about right now. It's about playing for the top 4. On paper, you can create scenarios in which we can probably be 1 or 2, but that's probably not realistic. I think the more realistic objective is to end this losing skid, Southern 2, and put yourself in position to get in the top 4. And that's still very much in play. We don't have a tiebreak on Jackson State. We do have it on Grambling. And, we'll have to just, pick ourselves off the deck and try to get it going here at home.
Very interesting. Very interesting. The statement you made about Coach Robinson saying, hey, that's our DNA. We're going to live by the 3-point shot defensively. He's more concerned with that. To me, from the outside looking in, you don't really see any post play offensively for Alcorn State. But it's interesting that he's not going to change. Not at all. So he's putting it all on the defense to get it done. Then he feels that then Alcorn will have a better chance, a better opportunity to get back on the winning streak. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he's the coach.
He feels like if he can keep the game in the 60s, I mean, the last 2 home games here was 59-58 and 63-60. So if he keeps it like that, and if that's the case, then the threes, you're not really relying on those. But when you're giving up 80 points, like we've had in the last 3 games, then you're going to have to knock down some threes. And teams, look, you got to give, and this was going to happen, and we all knew this was going to happen, that teams are going to look at film, and they're going to push their defense, push you beyond the 3-point line.
Yeah,
we're trying to set screens to get guys open. That's just not happening. We're not. I don't think we've had too many clean looks from beyond the arc in this 3-game losing streak. So you have to understand that at some point teams scout you. At some point teams are going to do some things differently. And Valley's a team. They pulled off one of the bigger upsets in conference, winning against A&M. That was an upset, a big time upset. So now you got Lindsey Hunter, who was once upon a time a Brave back in his playing days in the late 80s, early 90s, coming here. Valley's 1-1, and we've lost 3. So we gotta get it going, or else we're gonna find ourselves on the road, come March, which is something that we don't want to have happen.
I guess I'm kind of old school in the way, Charles. I believe in working inside out, and the inside game, you're getting that going. Defense has to fall back in the paint, and then the opportunities for the 3-point shot are more available. But hey, one of the things though, if Alcorn's hitting them, and an Alcorn fan sent me during this 3-game losing streak, just not good numbers at all from the 3. So that's why we opened the show saying you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And I understand your point defensively that they've got to get better, but both Alcorn and Southern had opportunity to kind of move up in the standings, and now you've got to be careful that you don't slip to you're going to be on the road in the first round of the tournament, and that's you want to be at home if all possible.
Yeah. One final point on our lack of post game. We have tried to get some post action going. Alonzo Campbell, the senior from Portland, he has struggled. He's played a little bit better, but he has struggled. Our number 2 post, Devon Brewer's out with a dislocated finger. There's a good chance he might not play at all the rest of the season. So if Campbell's not effective, either being fouls or not scoring or just not involved, then you got to go small. And we have some active smalls. Anthony Fairley, Deshaun Andrews, who's the perimeter player, can post. We've got some players that can get it done in the post, but they're undersized. So we yes, we're a 3-point shooting team. We do want to get some inside action going to collapse the defense inside to open up a 3-point shot, but that hasn't happened either. So we got some things to clearly work on. And to your other point, we got to get, I think, these 2 games for both Southern and Alcorn are foundation setters for potentially hosting a first-round game. I mean, probably not going to win the regular season. Mathematically, you can come up with a million scenarios in which, Texas Southern and Prairie View, they're playing at home. Jackson and Grambling on the Texas swing. So, if the Texas team just handle their business, we'll have a chance to move up and be, I think it's going to be a log jam. I think TSU and Prairie View will probably be 1-2. Then you got to look at teams like Grambling, Jackson State, Southern, Bama State, Grambling. You got 5 teams there for 2 spots in a home game. That's kind of the way it's looking at the moment. Grambling still has their 3 in a row at home. We got 3 in a row at home. Southern's got 3 in a row on the road coming up. So it's going to be a log jam. But you got to take care of business at home. If you win here, which I think we will, but again, are we still down in the dumps, or is Valley's going to come in here ready to go because they won a game that a lot of people didn't think that they would beat A&M, even though A&M has struggled a little bit. So you got to protect home court, that's for sure. That's all you can do, and then you can scoreboard watch at the end of the night.
A visit with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. On the women's side, plenty of conversation. Jackson State, undefeated. Coach Pettaway says, look, if I'm a coach and I'm at that point and I'm coaching Jackson State, Jackson State has had some adversity, winning by 3 last week against Southern University. I still want to win. And if I'm undefeated in conference in the regular season, so be it. But Jackson State, 2-game lead over Texas Southern. Southern 8-3, Texas Southern 8-2, Alabama A&M on the road, winning 3 in a row. Prairie View A&M 5-5, Alcorn State 5-6, losers of 3 in a row. Alcorn State women, pretty tough team. Picked 9th, not going to finish in 9th, you would think, but as of late, they've run into some problems.
Yep, their problems are getting off the slow starts. And it's happened during this 3-game skid. And if you look at the games that we've lost, Texas Southern, Jackson State, Alabama A&M at home, and then this 3-game losing streak, all 3 of these games on the road, we have started poorly. And we've been able to climb back in it, but it's just so hard. I mean, you're probably going to have one of those come from behind wins a year in conference. Jackson State had it. And other teams, you get, there's going to be a game during the course of the year in conference in which you were down and you found a way to pull it out. And I think Jackson had that game with Southern. They blew a 16-point lead. They actually trailed, and then they rallied and won. But the Lady Braves, they're not the type of team that can shoot the cover off the ball. Their offense is based on their defense. So when they're not scoring the basketball, even though they can create a million turnovers, if they don't capitalize on those things, and then they start falling behind and have to rely on other things offensively, that's just not Lady Braves basketball. Their offense is generated by their defense, and they've got to be able to convert easy layups. We're missing free throws. So right now, with the first 5-6 minutes, or maybe the first quarter, we've got to come out with the energy, and I think it's there, but it's just the execution is a little off right now. And it's, these two games, Valley and Pine Bluff, albeit Pine Bluff's going to be tough Monday night because Don Brown, in their first season, they've lost some very close games. We just got out of Pine Bluff with a 1-point win. So I don't think it's going to be easy, winning Monday night. And if we come out here flat and give Valley some hope, then, we don't want to lose that either, or else we will be playing on the road for sure. So I think for the Lady Braves, they have to execute offensively. They got to get some stuff going offensively, especially off turnovers. And that's something that we have not had in these last 3 games. We have struggled shooting the basketball. We're struggling from the free throw line. And that's not a good combination, especially when your defense is doing its part. And, Jackson State turned over 24 times, last week, but we just can't convert offensively. So that's a problem that we've got to clean up quickly, or else we're definitely going to, be on the road. It's not going to be easy after Monday night. You go to the Bamas, then you got Southern. It's not going to be easy. Texas Southern, Prairie View. It's not going to be easy. So this for the women, I think, is a big foundation weekend too, to kind of get the stench off this losing streak, turn some things around before we head to Alabama next week.
Yeah, the conference season is fast approaching the end, and you're absolutely right. Positioning, regular season crown, into tournament action. Scoreboard, February the 8th, last Saturday, Jackson State is on the women's side over Alcorn State 76-66. Alabama State a 5-point victory over Mississippi Valley State 66-61. Prairie View A&M over Texas Southern. They depleted Texas Southern team 50-47. It was Southern over Grambling State 70-51, and Alabama A&M 13-point victory over UAPB. Then on the Mad Monday, Grambling State over Alcorn State 70-59. That's February 10th. Alabama A&M over Mississippi Valley State. Wow, 75-45. Alabama State over UAPB 68-65, and Jackson State over Southern University 60-57. So that's how the women's action looked this past weekend. Charles, who would you say is the game of the week on the women's side out of the games between Saturday and Monday on the women's side?
I think Jackson State, going to Texas, I think those 2 games are going to be huge for TSU and Prairie View as Jackson State goes down there. It's not going to be easy for Jackson State, albeit in just watching Jackson State last week, they were winning games in different ways. And it's one of those years in which nothing phases them. I mean, the game against Southern, they blew a 16-point lead at home, the Monday Night Blues, but they found a way. Against Texas Southern, they pushed them around and they were down to the last minute. They found a way and won it in overtime. It's one of those years for Jackson State. They're being challenged these last few games. And if you're Coach Reed, that's what you want. And if you're going to win the whole thing, you're going to be pushed around. And they've been pushed around and they've stood tall. So I'm going to say that, Jackson State taking on TSU and Prairie View is really going to be, I think the games of the week. And I think part of the other storyline is what Alabama State has done, minus some key players due to that incident with Texas Southern. They go to Valley and Pine Bluff and shorthanded, find a way to win those 2 games on the road. So you got to keep an eye on Bama State, although I think they've got a ways to go, but they picked themselves up off the mat. So I'm going to say Jackson State, and can they go to Texas and get it done? It's tough to win down there. I mean, we were able to win by 5, and we trailed by 30 against TSU at the break before making a game of it. And we just kind of fell apart there in the fourth quarter. But no question, I think Cynthia Cooper is going to be ready before Coach Reed and her ball club. And Jackson State's going to have to really bring it these next 2 nights.
It's going to be very interesting tonight. I almost wish I could be there. If I could split myself in half. Half will be there and half will be somewhere else. Switching gears as we wrap up this week's report, baseball. Some good quality wins in Southern and Alcorn State at 1 p.m. on the Major League Baseball TV network. Should be a good one, I would think.
Absolutely. And you were saying if you could split yourself in half, if I could split myself in half, I would be here at the Whitney Arena and down there in New Orleans. I just got back from New Orleans this morning, and I'll be going back tomorrow as we play UAPB tomorrow morning at 11. Good win by Southern over UNO. Good win there to start the season. Good win by the Braves. Hanging on and getting some runs. Prairie View clearly has got some defensive issues and some base running issues that cost them. But I think we had timely hitting and some solid pitching down the stretch in last night's game. Brett Richardson was talking about the lack of good weather. He hadn't had 7 good days of practice.
Yeah,
getting ready for the season opener. And like you said, I'm sure that's the case around the conference, maybe down there at Southern as well. Just trying to find a stretch of good weather to get a lot of work in. Haven't had that at Alcorn because the weather just been so bad. And next week's going to be probably the same thing. We got some rain coming next week. But the Braves showed a lot of moxie, showed a lot of toughness. I'm sure Tavarius Cole, a kid that's kind of a pace setter for us, hit a 3-run home run. We got 4 guys in our lineup, Carlos, from 3 to 6 that can hit the ball out of the ballpark. Kind of the meat of our lineup. They're big guys that can hit it out of the yard with one swing of the bat. Kind of like Alabama State had back in the day with Melendez and his ball club. So if those guys set the table, we can score a ton of runs. Can our pitching and defense hold up? That's going to be the question. And Southern, hey, they're SWAC champs. I think it's going to be a good game today. You know, on the MLB network. Chance to see some good baseball, showcase some good talent around the conference, and we'll see. I'm looking forward to watching that game a little bit before our game tips off.
Yeah, but for some reason it's early in the baseball season, but I'm looking at this one, and the fan part of me wants a victory bad. I wonder why. Because it's all corn. Take out all the frustration.
We know why. It's all corn and something. We know why. I get it. I absolutely get it. I will say this, Carlos. The game last night, Alcorn and Prairie View had a SWAC tournament feel to it. There's a lot of Prairie View fans there, a lot of Braves fans, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of Jaguar fans there today when they play Alcorn. It's gonna feel like a SWAC tournament game. Of course, the SWAC tournament won't be there, but it's going to have a SWAC tournament feel to it. And that's, I don't know if we're going to be in this tournament after this year. I mean, our coach has said he's got some other things going in the tournaments. The folks there are looking to get some other teams involved. And so we're not going to be in it next year for sure. But I hate that because it's some good SWAC baseball early, good environment. The crowds are into it, and I think it's a good energy for the opening weekend of baseball season.
Yeah, and it serves as, because it's the beginning of the season, but you get an early look at some of the competitors within the conference. Yeah. So we'll have to see how they retool this Andre Dawson Classic. I got several thoughts going on in my mind. Although you always think about cost, but it would be an excellent opportunity to maybe mix some MEAC teams in there, but I understand the travel and what have you, but it'll be interesting to see how they retool this going forward. Maybe they'll give some more invites to other teams in the conference. We shall see. Well, Charles, I know you're a busy guy. Tough week. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, and we'll talk with you next Saturday.
Should be fun, Carlos. Appreciate it.
All righty. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Gonna take a time out. When I come back, I'll switch gears. Brandon B.J. Jones. We'll ring him up, dial him up, and we'll talk some football recruiting. Last week, conversation that dominated the airwaves, basically North Carolina A&T and their move to the Big South. And from that discussion, you had about 5 or 6 other topics that were ringing out, that's coming out. who's going to go where? Will the SWAC have some expansion? Well, we don't know about all of that. But what we can say is it's baseball season. Got to finish up basketball season in the conference. March Madness is coming pretty soon. And also, I still have to give you a quote from Dr. McClellan. SWAC creates Football Officials Evaluation Committee. So, with that being said, we'll take a quick time out. Brandon B.J. Jones is up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello. This is Lonzo Hardy Jr., President of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999 at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who have played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or Luncheon, where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Crossett Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWACalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Him too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control of my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Final guest of today's show, Brandon B.J. Jones. B.J., good morning / afternoon to you, sir.
Man, how's it going, Carlos, man? Good morning. Good morning.
I'm doing fine. B.J., did you have an outstanding Valentine's Day yesterday and last night?
Oh, man, I did. I did, man. It was pretty cool. It was, all I did was, honestly, man, just worked. Just went into work, man, and got some stuff for my daughter and was able to put a smile on her face and, able to, just enjoy the people that I love and just went to work. It's not as big a production as it used to be.
Well, that's still good. A beautiful daughter. But I'm going to just tell you a little advice what my grandmother and grandfather told me. Just keep living. Keep living. And every day can be Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So with that being said, I think you have the right mindset. Spend it with the one you love, or the ones you love. With that being said, kind of was on social media, Twitter, and I saw your, I want to say, what was it, conference rankings, or was it team ranking, as far as recruiting?
Yeah, I did the conference rankings, the top 5 in each conference, CIAA, SIAC, SWAC, and MEAC. And then I did a FCS HBCU top 10.
With that being said, I used to get into the rankings very, very heavily back in the day, but now I leave it up to guys like you and others. I know there are different colleagues and sports talk show hosts and organizations that come out with their rankings as far as recruiting. What is one or two of the criteria you look at when you're putting your list together?
So one of the things that I look at is I look at each individual prospect. I take into account a little bit kind of where different services rated them, but I trust my eyes a lot better than certain services. Mm-hmm. I'll go in and I'll take a look at Huddle, and if I have any additional questions, I can go on YouTube and I'll just find, whole game. What I've learned is I want to see how you play in the game. I don't want to see your highlights. I want to see everything. Because a kid's Huddle film can mislead you to think you're getting something that you may be getting. Yeah, he may have 3 spectacular plays in one ball game, but it could have been 4 or 5, blown assignments or plays, or he was out of position. Mm-hmm. I look and do it all. And what I do is I grade a prospect from 1 to 5. And then once I get through, adding that with the signing class, I average it. And then that gives me my averages, and now I'm able to rank those classes.
Very interesting, because a coach told me one time, you have to remember, Carlos, highlights. It's going to show.
Mm-hmm.
It's better part of the play, but to your point, film doesn't lie. And you can look at things that he or she didn't do well, and that's what they look at as well, the total whole picture. So that's very interesting. And then a coach told me also you look at wants and needs.
Mm-hmm.
I need interior defensive linemen, but I want that stud defensive end. But I need interior linemen. Do you look at that as well?
Mm-hmm. How are you addressing your needs?
Mm-hmm.
Holes in the roster. You can go and get, what you consider a top prospect, but that top prospect, it doesn't go a long way if you already have 3 and 4 in that position anyway. But when you go address some needs, that goes a long way as well.
Yeah, and also, could you look at someone that, let's say, for example, Southern has 8 or 9 10 defensive ends accumulated from multiple classes. Is there an opportunity that maybe one of the players that they recruited, say the year before, he's 6'6", 240. Can he make a move if necessary to inside and then add some weight, good weight, and then can be utilized in that way?
Yeah, I mean, you also look at that, what's versatility? I mean, there was a few kids that I looked at that not only were they solid on the football field, but they played multiple positions there. They played basketball, they ran track. So you also look at what kind of athlete the kid is. Alabama A&M signed a kid that could play every position on the offensive line. And graded out well at all 5 positions. That's very important because that kid has versatility, and you never know what happens over the course of the season. Someone gets injured, and you may have to slide him down in a slot that you didn't originally plan for him to play. So I look at versatility as well.
Visiting with Brandon B.J. Jones. So just kind of putting that out there, some things to remember when doing evaluation of classes. With that being said, as far as if you look in the MEAC, we often think of North Carolina A&T, although we know they're transitioning to another conference. Which team stood out to you from the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference?
Believe it or not, when I went in and took a look at it, the number 1 class in the MEAC was Florida A&M. FAMU, what they were able to do recruiting-wise, if I'm everyone else in the MEAC, I'm a little nervous. Because what FAMU was able to do was they were able to build on the season that they had last year. And they already had a young team last year. So they had a lot coming back. They were able to add more talent. When you look at the receiver, Smith, number 19, him going over 1,000 yards again, just a sophomore. They added more receiver depth. They added the quarterback transfer from Kansas State. Marquise Bell is probably, one of the best defensive players, not only in black college football, but in the country. They added another player of his caliber in the secondary at the safety position alongside with him. It's what they were able to do and the players they were able to bring in. I have them as my number 1 class in the MEAC.
Interesting. FAMU, building on a successful season this past season. CIAA.
In the CIAA, the number 1 class was Winston-Salem State. I have them in that number one spot. They were able to do an amazing job. They were able to get a lot of kids out of that Charlotte area. But when you look at the size of the kids they brought in, they got some big kids. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, when you think CIAA ball, you thinking, some 5'8", maybe 5'9", 5'11" receivers and defensive backs. So they were able to go and get 6'3", 6'4", 6'1" in the defensive, backfield. They did an outstanding job. And I have them slightly above Fayetteville State and Virginia State in the CIAA.
As we move along, the SIAC.
Savannah State, and they've been bragging about their recruiting class. And I'm being honest with you, Savannah State out-recruited some FCS HBCUs. That's how strong Savannah State's class is. When you look at the caliber athlete that they brought in, they took advantage of being in the state of Georgia. They were able to get down to Valdosta and Lowndes County where they play outstanding football. They were able to get up into it in the Atlanta area with outstanding football there. And they were able to grab a few kids that you thought, maybe he's going to go to a G5 school, FCS at the worst. And they were able to convince those kids to come to Savannah State.
Now, that's very interesting because now moving down and then having success in the SIAC and now building on that. And as you stated, in the rich area, the state of Georgia, very good as far as recruiting purposes. Who would be second in the SIAC? I'm just interested in that.
Albany State. I have Albany State slightly above Miles College. Literally, it wasn't even a half of a point that Albany State outranked Miles. Albany State also did a great job getting into the same areas. At South Georgia, Valdosta Lowndes, Tifton area, getting up into Warner Robins, that area, and then getting what you need out of the Atlanta area. Georgia is such fertile ground for recruiting. So Albany State, Savannah State, they took advantage of that. Now, the shocker in the SIAC, we knew Miles College and Albany State, they're usually there. The shocker in the SIAC was Morehouse. They're ranked fifth, and people kind of scoff at that. But Morehouse is not one of those schools that traditionally recruits well. But they were able to hit the Atlanta area very hard, and then go into some other areas, Birmingham, get into Nashville, get into Miami, Florida, and get some other pieces that they needed as well.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. But again, you're looking at good metropolitan areas and the state that have traditionally been very fertile. Now to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Now, when this time hits, I hear from different segments of fans within the conference. Alcorn State, of course, their fans are going to always talk to me for some reason. I don't know why, but they did. They're going to talk to me, and boy, they were showing me a couple of people in particular were showing me the class. And let me say this: all of this, I think you'll get an even good judgment of this recruiting class will be, 2-3 years from now, maybe 2 at minimum. And what kind of impact? Again, we've talked about wants versus needs. But in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, across the board, it seems like you're getting better recruits in the conference.
Oh, yes. I mean, SWAC recruiting is, man, it is getting better year by year. This was a great year for the conference. We talked about recruiting. Let me give you an example. Alabama A&M pulled in an amazing class. Mm-hmm. And in years past, that would have been good enough for number one. I have them fourth in the conference. It's just because everybody just did an amazing job, top to bottom. Me and Mike Prince talked about it on Sunday. A quarterback that Mississippi Valley was able to get that they're very excited about. In years past, Mississippi Valley didn't get that type of that quality of kid, but they were able, to do that. So SWAC recruiting as a whole, it's getting better, and it is very, very exciting as a guy who grew up around this conference and played in this league.
So, with that being said, BJ, who do you have as number one?
Alabama State, the Hornets of Alabama State. What they were able to do recruiting wise, it blew me away, and they've been bragging about it. The official university page. Hey, we have the number one, recruiting class in the conference. They were ranked number one by Hero and some other publications as well. Alabama State they did an amazing job. They have the 34th ranked class nationally in FCS, which is the highest in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Man, they were able to get kids, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of these kids in this class make immediate impact. Because you listen to Coach Hill Ely when he addressed this class, they went in mind that a lot of these kids are going to have to go day one. And we're going to have to go and get goers day one. So you're going to see a lot of these kids play immediately. And that will tell us a lot about this class. Alcorn was just behind them. I have Alabama State slightly above Alcorn. But they were right there. You look what they were able to do. As far as recruiting, Alcorn did a solid job. Southern University at number 3. I know we talk about the staff changes at Southern. There's so much going on. Even with everything going on, Southern was still able to pull an amazing class. Alabama A&M was 4. Grambling State was 5th. So those were the top 5. But from 1 through 5, me telling you about the ratings, there was not the 1 through 5 was decided by a point and a quarter. That was the difference between 1 through 5. It lets you know how close it was.
My goodness, I almost have to have a doctorate in mathematics. Look, putting the numbers in. My goodness. But when it's all said and done, one of the biggest conversations I have with my best friend is basically once you get them to college, get them acclimated, at the end of the day, did they improve? What kind of coaching? Did they get coached up? Freshman to a senior year, you should see some major improvements. And it just makes the Southwestern Athletic Conference football chase for 2020. It's going to be very interesting, BJ, because you have some teams right there who's been right there but didn't quite get in. You have a team that's gotten it done. They've been there. They've gotten it done. You've got some teams that are very hungry, that are ready to make the next step. I mean, pre-spring practice, what I'm hearing is this could be the year for Alabama A&M. That's the conversation that I hear being talked about the most. Still early, not even spring practice. Have you heard the same thing?
I think Alabama A&M, for this to be the year for them, they have to fix the offensive line play. They gave up a lot of sacks. And the problem with Alabama A&M was they lose a lot of that offensive line that already wasn't good. Defensively, they showed improvement towards the end of the year, but they were still pretty bad. Akil Glass returns. I think he's arguably the best quarterback in the conference. He returns. They have some backs to replace Jordan Bentley with. It's going to be interesting to see who's the guy that replaces him, because as that running game goes, you help Akil Glass out a lot. My questions for Alabama A&M is going to be, can you keep Akil Glass upright, and defensively, can you stop people? If they can address those problems, then I like Alabama A&M. But as you have alluded to in years past, we haven't seen Alabama A&M pull it together just yet. We've talked about them in years past. It's this year they finally pull it together. But Alcorn is going to be right there. Look at what Alcorn has coming back.
I'm going to say that.
They are going to be right there. Nico Duffy, Felix Harper, Charles Pringle. The names go on. Alcorn's going to be right there.
And of course, as we stated throughout the season, Prairie View and Alabama A&M, they mirror each other to me. UAPB still going to be trying to work to get better. Texas Southern, there's nowhere to go but up.
Mm-hmm.
But up. And most people are not going to be surprised by this, but with dear old Southern University, now is the time. The expectations, as always, and the staff moves that Coach Odoms has to make. I will officially say now there is immediate pressure for Coach Odoms at Southern University. It's kind of always been there, and I know people are like, oh, here we go again. Here he goes, high expectations. High expectations. Atlanta bust. I can't believe he's saying that. 2020, high expectations again. The talent is there. The talent is there. BJ, but it's just something else is going on. But I still expect Southern to get it done. Call me crazy, BJ. Call me foolish in my thinking.
No, I mean, Southern definitely has the talent. The big question right now in the offseason is, what does this new staff look like? And when you lose so many pieces at one time, it doesn't matter how it was done, people start to ask questions, and the people that don't like you will throw up the imaginary vultures, and they're now circling the chicken coop.
Well, you know, every great empire was destroyed a lot of times from within, not from the outside enemy. Thus, Southern University, it's going to be interesting. Spring practice starts April the 1st. And by the way, they gave out the schedule. They've got 3 days of practice, then they're off for a week. Must be, what do you call it, BJ?
Spring break.
Spring break? There you go. My goodness, didn't remember that one. And then they'll finish out by the 25th. Is the seat warm or hot for Coach Owens?
I think when you're the head coach at Southern University, the seat is always warm if you haven't won a championship. And you start adding years between your last title. The biggest thing, a lot of people in the Jaguar Nation are frustrated about the losses to Alcorn. But this is the thing that I tell people is that, you know, if you keep getting to the door, eventually you're going to kick it in. You're going to kick that door in. It may take some tinkering, but you're going to kick that door in. What you don't want to do, and you have to be mindful of, is you can make a change, but it needs to be the right change. It doesn't need to be any ands, ifs, or buts about it, because what you'll do is find yourself wandering through the wilderness like our buddies up I-55 up in Jackson, Mississippi, and now you're not getting to the door. You're not getting to the doorstep. You're not even getting in the yard or the neighborhood. So that's when you have to be very, very careful in situations like this.
You know, this will be a great opportunity to take a shot at JSU fans, but I'm not going to do it. I'll just say Southern is not Jackson State. You got to have a plan. And on that note, I better get out of here. Oh, BJ. As always, appreciate it. Next Saturday?
Yeah, we can do it, man. Next Saturday. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Have a great rest of your weekend. Appreciate you.
You do the same.
All righty. Well, yeah. See, I can't leave well enough alone. I want to take a shot at JSU. And you know what's going to happen. They'll let you know about it. Want to thank Coach Van Pettaway, Charles Edmonds, and Brandon B.J. Jones, and Dr. Michael Prince. Dr. Prince, hang in there. Baseball will be all right. And I pull for Prairie View women to get a good victory Monday night. Take down GSU. See, Coach Pettaway is not on the line now. Look, I'm sorry. Somebody's got to take out JSU. I want it done. I hadn't forgot about you, JSU. Thanks to everyone who listened in. Continue the conversation as always, even after the show. Until next Saturday at 10 a.m., thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. And as always, until next time, peace and God bless.